Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on moving proudly. Keep on moving proudly. Keep on moving proudly. Never turning back. Never turning back.
Good morning, and welcome to today's service, the themes of which are rebirth and liberation, and the strong association to the Jewish Passover and Christian Easter. Passover rejoices the Israelites' escape from the province to the promised land after slavery in Egypt, and the freedoms and opportunities then made possible for them. Easter rejoices perhaps not so much the physical resurrection, although many may still believe that, but the resurgence and reinforcement of Christ's messages despite his crucifixion. These events are immortalized annually through our witnessing the arrival of spring. Whoever you are, whoever you love, and wherever you are on your journey of faith or search for meaning, you're truly welcome. If you're connecting for the first time, or for the first time in a long time, know that we're most grateful to have you with us. We come together in beloved community to grow in wisdom, welcome and deepen relationships, and act for a just and sustainable world. My name is Alex Schumacher, and I have the privilege of serving on your board of trustees. I am a committed Unitarian, believing that as a community, we must dwell not on dogma, but on how we live in harmony, not only with those of our own species, but with the entire interdependent web of existence. Now, wherever we may be, let us remember and acknowledge the traditional territories and language of all those whose ancestors were here before us. We recognize our responsibility to be stewards of this land and acknowledge that we do so in cooperation with the people of the Blackfoot Confederacy, for whom this Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta is their traditional territory. The people of the Blackfoot Confederacy include the Siksika, Peguni, and Kainai First Nations, the Tsuut'ina Band of the Dene First Nation, and the Nakota First Nation, also known as Stoney, which here in Alberta includes the Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Wesley Band. Mohkinstsis, the Blackfoot word for what we now call the city of Calgary, is also home to Métis Nation 3. In offering this land acknowledgement, we honor those who have long been its stewards and accept our responsibility to remain good caretakers. We acknowledge that Treaty 7, signed on September the 22nd, 1877, was entered into as a collaboration between settlers and Indigenous peoples, making us all treaty people. I now pass you to the Reverend Shelley to do our Greet Our Neighbors Act.
Thank you, Alex. Alex is here representing the male of the species today. We appreciate that. Good morning, everybody. I'm Reverend Shelley Thompson. I'm the interim minister here. My pronouns are she and her. I am so delighted to be with you all on this glorious day that is Easter and Passover and Ramadan all at once. Isn't that great? Now, if everyone would please rise in body or spirit, we're going to wave at everybody on Zoom back there. Hi, Zoom. Hello, everyone. If you're over in Wickenden, wherever you are, we love you. We're glad you're here with us. Hello, hello. And please feel free to greet your neighbors right here in person with a wave or an air kiss or an elbow bump. Good morning, good morning. We're so happy our families are back. Yay! Wonderful to see you all. Truly great to be together. I'm going to light our chalice this morning with the words of Reverend Dr. Alicia Ford, one of my friends and colleagues. Flaming chalice, our symbol of community and the fire of our commitment to collective liberation. When we pause to remember who we are, companions on this grand experiment called life, when we take a moment to shed the ways we've been carefully taught to lead from fear, to punish the poor, to persecute those who don't look like we do, to deny rights to those who love, to believe that we're separate, that some people are superior to others. When we take a moment to shed all of that and hear our stories, hear and see each other into existence, into community. When we take a moment to embrace and practice a different way of being, when we answer the call of love, then we are all living into the promise of building the world we dream about. It's beautiful to cast a vision, to dream, to stretch our minds into the future and imagine what may be if we were to build a new way of being. Not someday, but beginning again today. Beginning again every day that we have breath, taking courage with these hands and these hearts to make real the dream of a more equitable world, to journey together, seeking to be transformed even as we transform, becoming explorers and learners in this world around us, humbled by what we do not yet know, fulfilling the promise of healing a fragmented world, laboring not just in hope, but also in love. In this spirit, we commit. In this spirit, we pray. In this spirit, we gather. Happy Easter to our Christian siblings around the world. Happy Passover, Pesach. I'm learning a little bit of Hebrew and trying to pronounce it correctly. To all of our Jewish siblings the world over. A quick reminder that we did send out our COSM, Committee on Shared Ministry, survey to everyone. We've had about 22 people respond to that. I sent it to you again this morning, so if you haven't had a chance to sit down with it, we would so appreciate your feedback. We want to hear from you. So please feel free to fill that out for us and let us know what's going on with you and help us vision and plan for the future of Calgary Unitarians. And next Sunday, please know to get excited already, this is going to be a multi-generational celebration of Earth Day. So our children and families will be with us the whole time. We're going to start in here and do a little bit of our usual chalice lighting and storytelling. And then we're going to have dances with Ronnie Joy, whom you'll see again today. And we're going to have activities in Wickenden Hall to celebrate Earth Day and honor our commitment to working for a more just and equitable world through climate. So that's very exciting. I hope you'll all be able to join us next week. Today, we're going to get a little taster, a little appetizer to help us learn about Passover. Passover, or Pesach in Hebrew. It's one of the Jewish religion's most sacred and widely observed holidays. It's a big deal. It's a time when family and friends gather. And in fact, in the ancient Hebrew scriptures, in Hebrew, God tells God's chosen people, I've made a wide place for you. Sounds like widening the circle, doesn't it? God's abundance and love and will for the people to flourish is described literally as a spacious place. I've put you in a wide place, God says, for you to flourish. And so in response, the Hebrew people experience great humility at that gift, a tremendous gratitude. And so much of the celebration of Passover is about gratitude for all of the many blessings the people have received. And it inspires tremendous generosity and a commitment to offer others the blessings that the Jewish people have received. And when we know the history of the Jewish people, we know there's been a lot of suffering, a lot of hardship, and there is ongoing anti-Semitism and persecution happening right now in this world. So our struggle continues, and the Jewish faith reminds people to gather in community. That is our communities that is our strength. It is our friends who help us through. It is in joining together with our will for a greater peace, a greater justice, and true collective liberation that keeps us going on together. So we celebrate the blessings and recommit ourselves to the powerful, powerful goal of love, community, and collective liberation. Verse about, and we learn that many today celebrate radical Passover with just that focus, a focus on justice, a focus on all those who need us to work for them, whose voices aren't heard, and who continue to suffer and are not yet free. And it was Emma Lazarus, who was a Zionist back in the day, who said, "Until we are all free, we are none of us free." You may remember her. She's the poet who wrote The Colossus. It's the poem that's on the Statue of Liberty in New York City. So welcome everyone today. We are blessed to have Ronnie Joy and Miriam and Marcia here with us to share their Jewish heritage. And Ronnie Joy is going to come up and introduce for us our first song.
Good morning, everybody. This song is Circle Round for Freedom, Circle Round for Peace. It's written by Linda Hirschhorn, who is a rabbi and cantor from California. She's a singer-songwriter of progressive songs, both secular and religious. And it's also a circle dance, which I think we'll do next week. This time I invite you to sing along with the words, and circle round for freedom, circle round for peace. And I'm here to celebrate Passover with you. I'm also a member of Women in Black, which began in Jerusalem. Actually, Miriam is also a member, and it's an international, a global group of women for peace and nonviolence. And so this is my vision of liberation for Passover. So now we will enjoy the song. I invite you to stand in spirit or in body and to sing along with the words on the screen. Thank you.
Children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle circle for each soul. Oh, the children of our children, keep the circle.
For Unitarians, it's so nice to see all your shining faces this morning. And we're just checking that they can hear me. They're like, move your mic. All right. First, I was like, my hair is not in my face today. It's back. I got the bunny ears on. All right. So today, we're talking about, it's Easter, but it's also Ostera, which is like the pagan time of spring. It's also Passover, and it's also time of Ramadan. This is the month of Ramadan right now. So it's so many different things coming together. And we have egg hunt, and because of course that's traditional. I say let's make it traditional for Ostera as well, but it's also traditional for Easter. Finding eggs, there's symbols of fertility, and we're going to be painting eggs as well, and that'll be a lot of fun downstairs. And I have to start things off. I have a riddle for all of you. All right, you guys ready for this? I have this egg. I'm going to toss it, and midpoint, it's going to come right back to me. Without any strings, without any magnets, nothing up my sleeves. Any guesses as to how I'm going to do this? I'm going to toss it. It's going to stop, reverse direction, and come back to me. Any guesses? Go ahead. Oh, Sam totally got it. I'm going to throw it straight up so you get an egg. There we go. Enjoy. We have smart youth in this congregation. Excellent. All right. So now we're going to be sharing a story called The Passover Guest. And something that I just learned recently is that at Passover it's traditional to leave a space for the prophet Elijah. And so what they do is they leave the door ajar a little bit, and they pour a cup of wine. And the idea is to make room for unexpected guests. And I really love that. And another thing, some of you might be like, what is Passover? And it's a time when they remember, when there's certain stories that they remember, and the kids are encouraged to ask these questions like, why do we have these special foods here on this day? What is Passover about? And so it's a time these kids get to ask questions. So you'll remember that as you listen to the story. And now, cue the slide. We will read the Passover Guest. All right, my slides are coming. Excellent. And one more slide, please. And it's by Susan Kusau. So Muriel loved Washington in the springtime. The white buildings stood out crisply against the green lawns, and the cherry trees burst into pink blossoms at the tidal basin. She could feel Passover in the air. The year was 1933 and was different. Her father, like so many others, had lost his job. Her family didn't have enough to eat, even on ordinary days, and it would be impossible to buy all the food needed for their Passover Seder. They didn't even have enough wine to fill the ceremonial cup for the prophet Elijah, who was said to visit every Passover Seder. So there's no need to rush home and prepare the holiday feast. Muriel walked slowly from the park and stopped to look up at the Lincoln on his magnificent marble chair. And a strange figure, dressed in rags, juggling on the steps of the monument, caught her eye. He looked as threadbare as the men on the street, waiting in line for soup. And as she watched, his brown hair turned red. And the eggs he juggled became blazing candles, and his shabby clothes turned into those of the finest silk. And Muriel was amazed. She took her only penny and put it in the hat at the man's feet. And he smiled at her and said, "The sun is setting. Passover is about to start. You don't want to miss your Seder." "My family isn't having one this year," Muriel answered. "Are you sure?" asked the man. "Perhaps you'd better hurry home." He sounded so confident that Muriel started walking quicker than she'd ever had before. She ignored the Washington Monument gleaming in the fading light. She rushed past the White House without a second glance, and gradually the stately buildings began to recede. And when she got to her neighborhood, her stomach grumbled as she smelled the delicious food from the other satyrs. And the celebrations were smaller this year, but she could still see the tables filled with food and the windows shining with light. What could the man have meant? How could they have a feast without any food? Her feet went faster and faster. And when she arrived home, she opened the door in anticipation, and she only saw the same shabby room with the spindly chairs and the rickety table that had always been there. Her parents emerged from the shadows dressed in their best clothes for the holiday, even though there was no food on the table, no gleaming silverware, and no wine set aside for Elijah. "Every door will be open to us on Passover," said her father. "Let's find another home where we can celebrate." As Muriel reached for the door handle, there was a knock. And when she opened it, she saw the mysterious stranger standing there. "May I join your Seder?" he asked. "You're welcome to share anything we have," answered Muriel's father, "but this year we have nothing." "I have everything we need," said the man. Muriel turned and looked again at the room. And it was no longer shabby, but glowing with light from countless candles, and the chairs were piled with comfortable pillows, and the food. There was mountains of tender brisket, and oceans of flavorful soup, and fields of crunchy matzah, and a magnificent Seder plate lay in the center of the table, complete with an egg and a shank bone and horseradish and parsley, lettuce, and charoset. And there was even a beautiful cup of wine for Elijah. And Muriel hadn't even realized she was hungry, but now she wanted to eat everything, even the horseradish. And Muriel's parents and her couldn't believe their eyes, and after seeing so little food for so long, their house was now bursting with it. "Can this really be?" her mother asked. "How is this possible?" her father asked. He sounded nervous. "Everything is possible on Passover," answered the man. Muriel could tell her parents were uneasy. She volunteered to ask the rabbi if they could proceed with this astonishing meal. So she ran down to the synagogue and found the rabbi about to start his own Seder. And she told him about their mysterious guest and how a magnificent feast had appeared from nowhere. "If you can pour the wine and break the matzah, then what you have described is a true miracle," said the rabbi. "Can you show me your Seder?" And Muriel led the way, and the rabbi's curious guests followed. And many people joined the processions as it passed other Seders. And when they reached Muriel's house, the crowd was enormous, but the stranger was no longer there. And everyone crowded into the tiny house, and they all managed to fit inside as the rabbi examined the table. And they watched as the wine poured itself, and the middle matzah broke into two and became the afikomen the children would look for later. And the rabbi picked up a piece of matzah, crumbled it in his hand, and blessed the meal. "This is not an illusion," he said, "but a Passover miracle. We may all enjoy this beautiful feast." And there was enough chairs for all. Their own Seders forgotten, the guests joined Muriel's family in the retelling of the story of Passover, and they dipped their parsley in salt water and ate bitter herbs. And Muriel asked the 4 questions about Passover, and all the children searched for the piece of hidden matzah, which was found just before midnight. And Muriel realized that in all the excitement, they'd forgotten to open the door for Elijah. But when she looked at his cup, there was not a drop of wine in it. And now she knew who the mysterious stranger was. And so this springtime, I feel, is about remembrance and renewal and coming together with loved ones. But I challenge all of you this week, this time of spring, to perhaps make a little room for uninvited guests. Or unexpected guests, but also uninvited guests too, if they're nice. And now please join me as we sing down the children and youth to start our own springtime ritual of egg painting and egg hunting and collecting pet items for the Calgary Humane Society. So we're going to make a big pile of those because even the cats and dogs at this springtime deserve their own holiday season.
Go now in peace, lay the love of God surround you. Happy Easter, Chag Sameach Pesach, and Ramadan Mubarak. I'm Miriam Meir, and I'm here to explain a little more. You've had a lot of explanations, so I won't have to do too much. I just want to give you a little background on who I am. I'm a member of the Jewish Theological Liberation Institute and a member of Independent Jewish Voices, which is Jewish people and their supporters who formed in 2006 to support the Palestinians in their struggle for liberation from occupation. I'm also a member of Anti-Racial Action Group and Reconciliation Action Group. So I kept very busy. And my interest in the whole subject is that I am a Jewish, Canadian, Israeli heritage. It's from Sephardic roots, which means my family originated in Spain and were expelled in 1492. My particular ancestors went to France, and then they came to Canada in the 1800s. And but I went to Israel, Palestine in 1983, and just by chance, I was asked to help with the Palestinian children and youth in a rehabilitation center. So of course I got to know their families, and they were so welcome. But I also observed that they were marginalized at that time, and then it grew worse later on. So I have been very active in speaking and panels and in rallies around the city. And so I'm here today really to show you a little bit of a visual aspect here. First of all, Passover, as you've seen, is a reflection of the Jewish tradition. But today, we also have to be mindful that there's people suffering around the world with occupation and wars and destruction. And we have to do our best to help the people that are taken from their homes, the people that are hungry and without any means of support. So anyway, first you mentioned about the candles will be lit later, so I don't have to do that. But usually in the what we call the Seder, which means order, everything is done, and there's a lot of symbolism. So I will start with they bless the wine, and as you've heard, they have the cup for Elijah, and who welcome. We open the door and welcome the guests, and then this is a special cup called Kos Miriam, and this particular one was made in Palestine from the Hebron glass factory, and the symbolic of this is that it's a women leading on, and and remembering the Palestinians who are still suffering. So and then we have the matzah, and it's called the bread of affliction. It's the story is that the Jewish people didn't have time have the bread rise, so it's unleavened bread while they escaped out of Egypt. But today we remember all the people who are afflicted by colonialism, and that includes indigenous people and Palestinians and anybody else who suffers from the colonial system. And then here there's a bowl of water with salt in it, and that's to remember the bitter times and the tears of our ancestors. And we dip our hands in that, and then this is called a Seder plate, and I will be taking it out to the hall after the service so you can see closer up, but I'll show you so we have this parsley, which is a green vegetable, but it tastes a little bitter, and it is the first sign of spring that we celebrate. The people who planned all this obviously didn't live in Alberta. They lived in the Mediterranean, where we have almond trees flowering and things like that. And then there's the bitter herbs that refer to the horseradish, and that's to remind of the bitter experiences that everybody has, no matter who they are, and we try to overcome. And then this is a lamb shank bone, and years ago, way back in the ancient times, there was animal sacrifice, but it's roasted and burned, and that is to remind us that there are fires everywhere, particularly from wars, as we see right now, and the destruction of people's homes and the families that have to flee, and also the burning of the earth from the climate change. So we certainly have to be mindful of all that destruction. And then, of course, you heard about the egg, which Sheila so nicely talked about. This is, as a lot of cultures have, as fertility and rebirth. So there's some hope, we try to be hopeful that things will be better. And then we have the orange, which was added to emphasize about women being included in taking part and leading. And then we wanted to include not just us Jews, but the people of color and the black people and the indigenous people and the LGBTQ plus people who are included. And then the last thing is this other thing is it's an olive, zait in Arabic, and it's the main crop of Palestinian people. And last but not least is called harosat, which is the mortar that they tell in the story where the Jews put in the walls for the pyramids. But now it's a symbol of binding us all together as one people, no matter who we are, and we're moving forward with peace and justice and love. Thank you very much.
Okay, our next song is called Dayenu, and it's sung every year at Passover. It's a song of thanks to God, and the text says basically, God did all these things for us, and any one of them would have been enough, but there was so much more, and we are grateful.
Hey everybody, today I want to talk about everybody's favorite song at the Seder, Dayenu. You know, the one that goes, Dayenu, Dayenu. Stop! What does it even mean? Okay, I'll tell you. It means it would have been enough. This song is all about all of these amazing things that God did for us. But even if God just did one of those things, it would have been enough. If God had just taken us out of Egypt, that would have been enough. If God had just given us the Torah, that would have been enough. If God had just given us Shabbat, that would have been enough. But God gave us all these things, Dayenu. We're so thankful. Oh my goodness, it's wonderful. It sounds like this. We'll start with the chorus. We just say, Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu. Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu. Sing it with me. Dayenu, Dayenu. Yeah, you got it. Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu. Ilu Hotzianu, Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim. Dayenu. Sing it with me now. Dayenu. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu natan lanu, natan lanu etan Torah, natan lanu etan Torah. Dayenu. You got the hang of it. Dayenu. That sounds good. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Let's sing it again. Dayenu. Okay. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu natan lanu et haShabbat, natan lanu et haShabbat. Dayenu. All right, come on, guys, sing it nice and loud. Dayenu, Dayenu, yeah. Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu. One more time. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Bum ba 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 dum. Oh, I didn't hear anyone. Bum ba 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 dum. Bum bum. Nice job. Happy Passover, everybody.
All right, now we have a different version of Dayenu, a poem that looks at all the blessings we have and looks even further at what we need, what we really need in the world at this time. Enough, Dayenu, for this and every year. We praise God at Passover, Dayenu. It would have been enough. It would have been enough if you had taken us out of Egypt, but not divided the Reed Sea. If you had divided the Reed Sea, but not brought us to dry land. If you satisfied our needs for 40 years, but did not send us manna. If you fed us manna in the desert, but did not bring us to Mount Sinai. It would have been enough. We would have been content. This year, I am failing. I cannot say Dayenu. It is too much. It is not enough. I've had enough. Enough racism, enough war, enough vicious white men taunting the brilliant judge, first black woman Supreme Court justice, taunting her to ignite rage, to call her just another angry black radical bitch. Enough bodies, dead bodies strewn on city streets, enough maimed bodies run over by tanks, enough stockpiles of nuclear weapons, enough chemical weapons, enough weapons altogether. Weapons incinerating the earth, billowing carbon into the stratosphere, melting glaciers, even faster. Enough sadism, enough hedonism of the super rich, enough billionaires riding rockets to outer space while their workers cannot feed their children on the earth. enough senators blocking climate change legislation because they own stock in fossil fuel, because they own coal mines, because money and power are their gods. Enough plastic bottles and bags, gagging fish in the sea, suffocating birds in the air. Enough floods and fires, earthquakes and droughts, enough melting ice caps. Enough dead birds, dead gorillas, dead frogs, enough extinctions, enough desert where there should be rain, enough rain where there should be sun, enough searing the lungs of the earth, enough climate refugees dying at borders to be free. Enough torture and tanks, enough severed limbs. Pregnant women shuddering in basements, giving birth, hearing bombs fall on their homes. Enough women watching kneeling husbands shot in the head. Enough atrocities, enough rape, enough liars and thieves and autocrats and oligarchs. Enough, enough, enough. Will you shout with me from rooftops, from mountaintops, from every capital and every dome, from every church, every mosque, every temple, every home? Can we make a roar loud enough to reach the heavens so it will finally be enough? Please, take my hand, please. Whisper in my ear that you have had enough too.
Now is a time when we light our candles of joys and sorrows, cares and concerns. And I'll do this for all of us today, since we have many special things going on. We certainly light that candle for sorrow, for sadness, for all of the things that worry us and keep us up at night. We do offer a candle of joy for our celebrations and our blessings. We are truly grateful for all of the things that are too important not to share. We lift those up in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, and you may write them in the chat if you're with us on Zoom. And Ronnie Joy is going to share with us our special global candle today.
We light this global candle of care and concern. Passover is a season of liberation. According to the Jewish calendar, the month of Nisan, April 2nd to May 1st, is a season of liberation. At this time of the full moon, we retell the story of our journey from the place of enslavement to the space of liberation. Every Passover, we celebrate the courage of our Jewish ancestors who dared to be free in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. We recite their story and make it our own. But we know that freedom just for some is not enough. Our vision is one of freedom and liberation for all people. We ask you to join us on a collective journey out of this place of the pandemic, unrelenting war and oppression, the growing climate crisis, towards a realized vision of collective safety, peace, and justice. During this season of Passover, we raise our blessings and we share our visions for collective liberation. Now I ask each one of you to consider, what does liberation mean for me? So we're going to have about 5 minutes now. You can turn to your neighbor or a couple of people and talk about, what does liberation mean for me? For those of you on Zoom, I encourage you to reflect on this. If you have a companion there, to speak with each other, and you can write a few words in the chat if you wish to do so. So now we'll begin. Please turn to your neighbor and talk about what liberation means for you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Wonderful conversations. Marcia will lead us in our offering.
Time to think about the offering, as always. This month, we are donating the For Others Fund to the Calgary Climate Hub, which is a volunteer-led nonprofit organization that unites Calgarians committed to working together to support local action on climate change, something we're all concerned about. And their mission is to build and connect networks of empowered individuals in communities across Canada by equipping them with the tools and knowledge to bring about new behaviors and policies that lead to a low-carbon, resilient, and just future.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
We dedicate this offering to the ongoing mission of this church, which includes acting for a just and sustainable world. We are so grateful for all your generosity that makes our ongoing shared ministry possible. We extinguish our chalice today. This is a story from A.J. Jacobs. He tells us, the story is a legend from the Midrash, and it goes like this. When Moses was fleeing from the Egyptians, he arrived at the Reed Sea with his thousands of followers. Moses lifted up his staff, hoping for a miracle, but the sea did not part. The Egyptian soldiers were closing in, and Moses and his followers were stuck at the shore. It was only a matter of time before every one of them would be slaughtered. Naturally, Moses and his followers were panicking. No one knew what to do. And then, just before the Egyptian army caught up to them, a Hebrew named Nachshon did something unexpected. He simply walked in to the Reed Sea. He waded up to his ankles, then his knees, then his waist, and to his shoulders, and the water was getting deeper, and just about when it was going to get to his nostrils, it happened. The sea parted. The point, said Rabbi Bachman, is that sometimes miracles only occur when you jump in. I love that story. Freedom is within our grasp, and Pesach reminds us that we need to reach. Rabbi Bradley Shavit Artson. We extinguish this chalice, but not the flame of courage in our hearts that keeps us all reaching for collective liberation and jumping in where others fear to tread when it comes to making justice and collective liberation for us all. May we go from this place open to life, expecting to love and prepared to serve. Our service is ended, and this is when the true service really begins. Please rise in body or spirit, and Ronnie Joy will lead us in our final hymn.
I invite you to rise. This Karev Yom is a song of giving and receiving, very appropriate. And it reflects a theme of balance conveyed in the song. The movements are grounding and hypnotic, with a sense of gathering one's energies to a place of quiet strength. So it's a very appropriate dance for a closing. So the song will start in a moment. We don't have a lot of room to dance, so I'll invite you to sway, and it's 4 sways. 1, 2, 3, 4. First 4, your hands are facing the earth. 2, 3, 4. Hands up to the heavens. 2, 3, 4. Back. 1, 2, 3, 4. And to your heart. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The rhythm is a little bit slower, and I invite you to end with your hands on your heart. Here we go with the music.
What do the words tell us, Ronnie?